sides of the card.
But
it looks better than it did.
Yeah. I think so too. Yeah.
Second, you want to get in this thing?
This will probably be close enough. Sure. Too much trouble.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you. I've got my Bob Dylan t-shirt on. He's playing at Mary. He and Willie Nelson are playing at Mary tonight. Are you a fan? Have you been a fan?
Blowing in the wind.
That's kind of your expected. He's had songs that do a lot of different
moves. You're advertising the annual auction. make up this correct or not.
Oh, my ears and whiskers!
Thing.
How late is getting?
Oh, here comes a mad rabbit.
How curious. How very curious.
Oh dear, I shall be late.
My dear White Rabbit, what are you going on about?
I got this invitation from the White Rabbit. It just arrived, and I'm sure I shall be late.
Oh, he is hosting a tea party. Oh, is he hosting a tea party today?
That's the thing. He didn't call it a tea party. And I'm not even sure if I'm dressed appropriately for this thing. What was it he called it again? An auction. That's it. Oh, my fur and whiskers, I'm quite confused.
Yes, you are confused. It's called an auction. And it's not today. Look here. The Hatter's hosting a dinner party for an auction to help raise money for a church. It's in November, see?
Now this is confounding. Here it says the auction is November 7th to 9th. And here the Hatter says he hopes to see all his friends on Saturday, November 8th.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. The entire auction consists of 3 parts. A silent auction and sign-ups for fixed-price offerings. Those go on the weekend from Friday to Sunday. And a live auction and dinner on Saturday evening at Epiphany Lutheran Church. That's the piece that the Hatter has specially offered to host for the church, which is what I find so curious. This doesn't seem like his usual cup of tea.
Curious indeed. What is this church you're talking about?
It's called Channing Memorial Church, Unitarian Universalist.
Oh, I've heard of them. That explains it. This is the church the Hatter's always going on about. He talks about what lovely people they are and how they like to support good causes like Neighbor Network and Howard County Pride. If all the proceeds are going to the church, I'd like to help. What can I do?
We'll need to ask the Hatter how we can help. But it's an auction, so I'm sure they'll need some donations for bidding. Here's a link on an online form for submitting donations. And I saw some copies of the form on a table as we came in.
What sorts of donations do you suppose are needed? Goods? Services?
Sure, and events too.
I suppose in the weeks to come we'll learn all the details about the dinner and how the auction works. In the meantime, to whom do we direct questions? Besides, of course, the Mad Hatter.
The invitation says questions can be directed to Ostara or auction at channingmc.org.
Splendid! I have just one more question. You said the live auction will be at Epiphany Lutheran Church. I know where that is. And you said the silent auction and fixed price signups will be online. Where's online?
Well, it's hard to explain. It's kind of like when you're traveling down the rabbit hole. I'll tell you about it later.
I hope you'll all be thinking about the splendid donations and the generous things you'll be giving to the Channing auction. Thank you for your attention and your participation.
May this honored hour become that path which brings us back to our center, back to that place of belonging, to what is true, what is deepest within, and what knows us even before we know ourselves. In this space, may we come to remember that we are held and welcomed whole, without any need to hide or withhold a single piece or part of who we are. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit to join our voices in our opening hymn. Here we have gathered number 360 in the gray hymnal.
Please remain standing as Julia Lawrence lights our chalice. These are the words of Deanna Van Diver. This ritual of our faith reminds our subtle and crashing about beings that we are part of a collective, a community of care and connection, courage and questions, scared and sacred together.
Maybe it will be your skin, your clothes, or the curl of your hair. There will be times when no one understands the way words curl from your mouth, the beautiful language of the country you left behind. My name is Roberto. We just moved here from Venezuela. And because they don't understand, the classroom will fill with laughter until the teacher quiets everyone. Rigoberto from Venezuela, your teacher says so soft and beautifully. That's your name and homeland sound like flowers blooming, the first bright notes of a song. There will be times when the words don't come. Your own voice, once huge, now smaller. When the teacher asks, "What did you do last summer?" Tell the class your story. We went to France, Carla says. These shells came from a beach in Maine. A boy named Jonathan holds out a jar filled with tiny shells so fragile they look like they'll turn to dust in your own untraveled hands. My whole family went to India, Spain, South Carolina, each souvenir, a small triumph of a journey. Their travels go on and on. As we stand in front of that room, you can only remember how the heat waved as it climbed, as it lifted off the curb, and your days spent at home caring for your little sister, who made you laugh out loud and hugged you hard at nap time. You can only remember the books you kept on reading long after she had fallen to sleep. And in that room, where no one else is quite like you, you look down at your empty hands and wonder, what good is this when other students were flying and sailing and going somewhere? There will be times when the lunch your mother packed for you is too strange or too unfamiliar for others to love as you do. When even your own friend Nadia will wrinkle her nose and say, "What's in there anyway?" And you'll wonder how she doesn't see the rice beneath the meat and kimchi. You'll wonder why she doesn't remember that rice is the most popular food in the world. There will be times when the climbing bars are too high, the run is too fast and too far. The game isn't one you can ever really play. I don't want him on my team. You can watch. Maybe you can have a turn later. There will be times when the world feels like a place that you're standing all the way outside of. And all that stands beside you is your own brave self, steady as steel and ready, even though you don't yet know what you're ready for. There will be times when you walk into a room and no one there is quite like you until the day you begin to share your stories. My name is Angelina. I spent my whole summer with my little sister. We tell the class, your your voice stronger than it was a minute ago. Reading books and telling stories. Even though we were right on our block, it was like we got to go everywhere. Your name is my sister's, Rigoberto says. Her name is Angelina too. And all that was, the room where no one else is quite like you. The world opens itself up a little wider to make some space for you. This is the day you begin to find the places inside your laughter and your lunches, your books, your travel and your stories, where every new friend has something a little like you, and something else so fabulously not quite like you at all. Makes you want to say. Please remain seated for our prayer hymn, Spirit of Life, number 123 in the gray hymnal. In the silence that follows the spoken prayer, you are invited to come forward and light a candle for any joys or concerns you hold in your heart this morning. Spirit of love and life, source of all that is, may we pause in this moment, not in jealousy, impatience, or anger, but in joy, peace, and compassion. May our minds not know hate, nor our bodies know frustration, but instead may we know that which is life-giving and beautiful. May we know transformation, as animosity gives way to delight and disdain to acceptance. And we realize that love prevails, that hope survives, that goodness thrives. Spirit of life, may we know our authentic selves, our true selves, our beautiful and beloved selves. May our intentions be good, our actions life-giving, our words those of compassion. May we tend to the love and hope held always in our hearts, in our spirits, so our minds be filled with goodness and rid of greed or anger. May we find those places where we are offered meaning, where we connect with the Spirit both within and beyond, where we find that we belong fully, authentically, and beautifully. Blessed be, and amen. I light a candle for the joys and concerns of those beloveds joining us virtually. And I light a candle for all else that we hold in our hearts and our minds this morning. If your heart is hurting, know that your community is here to help, as am I. Please reach out with any needs.
A few minutes ago, our chalice lighting ritual served as a symbol of our coming together and of our being together in this sacred space. Now, the ritual of the offering reminds us of the great power that we have when we share with one another. Each of us gives our time, our talent, and our treasure, and by doing so, it is together that we make our church and its beloved community. I invite the ushers to come forward. I now invite Kathleen Rasmus to give us a further opportunity to share via our second Sunday special collection.
Hello. Today's special collection will support our congregation's participation in the upcoming Howard County Pride event on October the 12th. By contributing, you're helping us live our UU values, celebrating love, inclusion, and justice for the LGBTQ+ community. I'd like to share something a little bit personal. I remember my very first Pride event. I was newly out and unsure of exactly what to expect. Two things stood out and have stayed with me all these years. One was the grandmothers group that was marching with PFLAG, and the other one was the few churches that showed up. The presence of the churches was especially powerful for me. It told me that I wasn't alone as a spiritually seeking lesbian, and that faith could actually be a source of healing and not harm. While there's definitely more acceptance now than there was 40 years ago, many trans, lesbian, gay, bi, and queer folks still carry deep wounds from religious trauma. When we show up as a congregation, open-hearted and affirming, it can be a balm. We can help heal. It can make someone feel seen, safe, and spiritually embraced. So your generosity today will help us cover the costs of registration, materials, and outreach for the event, so that we can show up with love and with purpose. And I thank you so much for giving from your heart.
We ask you to please come forward. For all that you give and all that you do for our church and its wider concerns, we give thanks. Our first reading comes from The Call to Courage by Brené Brown. True belonging is the spiritual practice of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world and find sacredness in both being a part of something and standing alone in the wilderness. True belonging does not require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. And our second reading is also from Brené Brown, this from The Gifts of Imperfection. Belonging is the innate human desire to be part of something larger than us. Because this yearning is so primal, we often try to acquire it by fitting in and by seeking approval, which are not only hollow substitutes to belonging, but often barriers to it. Because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. I invite you to rise in body or spirit, to join our voices in hymn number 34 from the Gray Hymnal, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire.
Both my mother and my father grew up in Catholicism, attending Mass, while disconnected from the creeds and offering in authentic prayers. As young adults, my parents both separated from organized religion entirely, each of them finding their own path towards atheism. My sister and I were raised by our single mother without a faith tradition. My theistic self was even quite critical of religious theologies and creeds surrounding primarily beliefs connected to death and the hereafter. And yet, in my late teenage years, my faith journey began. Was there something greater than this tangible world? What happens after death? If there is a God, why would God send people to hell? While in the midst of this theological meaning-making, I stumbled upon a Unitarian Universalist church. Here I was taught of inherent worthiness and dignity. I found spiritual sojourners with their own questions. I was offered a life-giving understanding of all things sacred and holy, and the assurance that no one is damned. Engaging with my true, authentic theistic self, my theology began to bud, then blossom. My journey brought me to a sacred and beloved group of Unitarian Universalists. I went from a lone and confused sojourner to a beloved part of an expansive faith community. Finding answers alongside others to my theological queries, I felt I truly belonged. This suggests the question, how can we know our authentic selves? It's when our words resonate with our hearts, our actions with our values, our decisions with our convictions. And we are always discerning our hearts and values and convictions. We are like Russian nesting dolls, living many iterations of our true selves as we learn and grow and pause in holy contemplation. Sometimes we forge a new identity, as I did with my theism. I connected with a new self that gave me new meaning and purpose. As a theist, I connected with my spirit in a much deeper way, cultivating a new kind of authenticity. How can we cultivate our true identity and live with purpose in this world, connecting with our authentic selves? I offer a short reflection pulled from Jewish later Hillel and various rabbis. It is when we know our strength, for we each have them. When we celebrate the gifts given to us by all things sacred and holy. So many of us do not focus on the myriad blessings we offer those in this earthly realm. The teachers offer. It's when we do not let others determine our value. It is dependent on us. It is not how others perceive us, but how we perceive and know ourselves. The text offers, be authentic. Live each of our days with integrity and do not alter who we are to please others. Quote, it isn't enough to just be yourself. Be extremely yourself. This sounds unachievable perhaps, and it is quite possible that no one will ever achieve it, at least not fully. But we have guides to help us try. This question of authenticity is so overarching that myriad faith traditions propose an answer. As a reminder, this month's theme is belonging. To clarify, when I speak of belonging, I mean when we feel accepted and welcomed by a community as our full, genuine, and vulnerable selves. When we are authentic, we are not swayed by the peer pressure of other groups, but find ways to connect and belong with others that are life-giving and meaningful. At a Quaker retreat I recently attended, I was part of several discernment circles, both as a listener and as the focus person. The goal of the circle is to discern how the focus person can be most authentic to who they are. So let me describe this unique practice. Someone who is searching for discernment sits in the middle of a circle of peers and asks a question for the group to focus on. What job offer should I accept? How can my actions be more in line with my values? After a prolonged silence, a peer offers reflection questions in response. What is the Spirit calling you to do? How does your heart feel in this moment? This is a spiritual practice that invites the presence of the Spirit, the inquiry of others, and an invitation to listen to that still, small voice within. What is held within your soul, your spirit, and your intellect, always present but yet to be discovered? I sat in awe watching those grappling with purpose and unearthing their true selves by centering in the Spirit. When it was my turn to offer a question to the group, I asked this: what am I called to do in this moment with my one wild and precious life? Ministry, yes, but what about meaning deep in my core? I was asked a handful of questions, and though I cannot remember the specific questions they offered, I hold true to what I discerned. My purpose is to find, connect to, and be guided in each of my days by all that I hold sacred and holy. While working in these small groups, I reflected upon an observation. That which is profoundly meaningful life for one may not be a life well lived for another. This is applicable to years-long discernment that my husband and I dedicated ourselves to. It was that deeply personal and difficult decision of whether or not to have children. Ultimately, many people find true meaning and purpose as parents. For myriad reasons, my husband and I decided that was not our path. And we are content and at peace with that choice. We, like the Quakers, connected with our holy, with each other, and with that of which we hold true within. With these deep and true discernments of self-identity, of purpose, of meaning-making, life-giving and affirmative authenticity is realized. Christianity has its own theological response to this question of belonging and authenticity found in the stories of Jesus. Jesus brings outcasts to society by healing them, including them, and respecting them, all of which leads to a return of authentic self of the afflicted, as compassion leads to transformation. Jesus saw the untouchables, the outcasts for just who they were, as beloved beings that he saw made in God's image. Through his touch and his love, the sick were miraculously healed. I pause to incorporate my own Christian theology that Jesus healed the sick not from a source of miraculous divinity, but because of the unconditional, miraculous love offered to those who only knew condemnation. Jesus worked to bring the least of these back to the community as a way for them to thrive. I think of the story of the leper, a tale of a man who was shunned and deemed an outcast from society due to his disease. This man approached Jesus to help in his physical and emotional turmoil. Jesus, a being of compassion and love, touched the untouchable, and he was healed. The man was no longer defined by his disease, but by his true, authentic personhood. He healed because of love and a recognition as a full human being. This allowed him to release the veil of self-disdain, finally embodying who he was at his core. As such, he could find authenticity and belonging. There are stories of tax collectors and sinners that illustrate Jesus' actions and beliefs as well. Jesus sat at the table and ate with those deemed sinners, sharing bread and treating as worthy those of whom society rejected. He engaged with the prostitutes, the poor, the disabled. Jesus not only loved them, but taught that the outcasts are receivers of unconditional divine love. Through compassion, the afflicted connected, not with the hate and exclusion they were subjected to, but with who they were deep within. They became their authentic selves, and I believed held true to this authenticity by believing in Jesus' unconditional love. These stories teach about the life-giving power, life-changing power of compassion. We are not Jesus, but we can use these teachings in our daily lives by respecting and assisting immigrants, by acknowledging the unhoused in the streets as full and beloved beings, by working for affordable housing or advocating for women's rights for bodily autonomy. Buddhism offers its own responses to the questions posed. The first I want to address is the understanding of delusions. This encompasses anger, jealousy, impatience, pride, any of those mindsets that cause us suffering. Buddhism teaches that these potentially detrimental states of the mind are not truly a part of who we are. We do not inherently possess any states of mind that are unwholesome. Greed, judgment, animosity, these delusions lead us away from our true selves. Yet, with mindfulness and intention, we can change. I learned that when I get impatient in traffic, when my body tenses up as frustration creeps into my being, that this is not who I truly am. Instead, through mindfulness, I can foster calming patience, and as such create a true and authentic peace of mind within. I simply sit in my car alongside many others. I return to my authentic self. Buddhism further teaches that these delusions arise from what Buddhists call self-cherishing. The more important we think we are, the more we are inundated with delusions that cause us suffering, that which separates us from our true selves. I am more important than you, and as such, I offer you disdain. I am a success, and as such, you are a failure. Our suffering results when we place our own happiness well above the happiness of others, and this impedes our ability to belong. We have to realize that we are not truly very important, that all of those we encounter need to receive our heartfelt compassion, care, and love. To be released of this self-importance, Buddhists teach, is to reconnect with our true selves. We are called not to focus on ourselves, but to lift up the needs of others. Buddhism also teaches about the practice of cultivating good within us. What Buddhism teaches is that, with intention, we can feed the good and starve the bad. Just as plants in a well-tended garden, those we care for thrive, and those without water and nutrients sink back into the ground. so is it with our minds. If we tend to joy, peace, and patience, then it is joy, peace, and patience that will prevail in our minds. If we starve jealousy, anger, and impatience, they recede into the recesses of our minds. We become our true self by releasing our delusions and connecting with that which is life-giving. We become authentic beings when we focus on cultivating goodness and beauty. The world's religions teach us that authentic living is not only possible, but vital. To settle in truth and meaningful discernment, to love unconditionally, to release ourselves of all that leads to suffering. This strips away any inauthenticity we have cultivated, and instead connects us with our core. Falsehoods slip away as truth is revealed. We belong to family, friends, faith communities. There is my own younger self, fully embracing my own theism, and as such, finding a life-affirming church. We cultivate peace, assurance, compassion, joy, authenticity, and truth. We live both self-assured in ourselves and as part of something so much greater. We belong in all of our beautiful and broken selves, in all of our joys and sorrows. We belong. May it be so, and amen. Please rise in body or spirit to join our voices in hymn number 1008 in the Teal hymnal, When Your Heart is in a Holy Place. Discernment lay forever in our hearts. Whispers of unconditional love rest always on our lips, and the promise of cultivating a true self echo in our very beings. In our bodies, may we know ourselves so fully and completely that we reside in this finite world in the deepest, most authentic way. May we know peace, love, and beauty, truth, authenticity, and belonging. Go in peace, and amen.
Myself